Welcome back. All right, so some more news of the day. It's training camp. So, since it's media day today, too, we're going to have a lot of information coming out. It is that time of year, time to get excited and all that fun stuff. So, starting off with Detroit, and it's many, many injuries. Andrew Kopp's out for the preseason after abdominal surgery. Should be back for the start of the season, though. Fingers crossed on that one. Pesek won't return until January at the earliest. He had, of course, Achilles injury to deal with. Jake Wallman scheduled to return in mid-November. That's a shoulder injury for him. And Robbie Fabry won't return before January at the earliest with the knee issue. So yeah, there's that going on for Detroit. So that's a lot of players. And again, as long as Kopp's good to go for the start of the season, they should be okay. Pesek, Wallman, Fabry are guys that they can overcome the losses of. But you don't want to see any of the core guys go down for Detroit. If they're going to get back into the hunt and become a playoff team again, they're going to need all hands on deck for that. Brayden Point is cleared for the start of camp. So, of course, he was banged up pretty badly during the playoffs. There was some debate about how long he might be out. Apparently, he's good to go for the start of camp. And we'll see how things go for him once he's back on the ice and going through the motions of all of that. And then they had, of course, it's media day, so everybody having press conferences. I talked about the Toronto one earlier, Vancouver having theirs. JT Miller, one criticism that has followed him around is defensive zone play. So he is vowing to make that work. And he talked a lot about it. He talked about how, you can get caught puck watching and how it's different if you're playing at center rather than on the wing. How it's a little easier if you're on the wing. You can get away with stuff you can't get away with if you're a center. But he sounds like he is pretty determined to, get that under control and get his 200-foot game to where he wants it to be. Plus, also said the guys are sick of missing the playoffs. Good. They should be. Any team right now going into training camp that isn't saying, yeah, no, we want to be in the playoffs, I think that says a lot if a player's willing to say that. And honestly, I would expect even out of Arizona, the players right now going into camp in Arizona are looking at it as, you know what, we haven't played a game yet, we've still got a chance. Why not? Doesn't hurt to be positive. Oliver Ekman-Larsson was asked about the Quinn Hughes pairing. He sounds very excited to potentially end up on a pairing with Hughes. One thing with OEL, he's shown he's a team guy in Vancouver. Again, we all admit the contract's not great, but the Canucks have it, so you want him to achieve his many goals, because if he achieves his goals, then so do the Canucks, right? So, OEL saying all the right things about playing with Hughes and how they've played together briefly before this season. So he's looking forward to an expanded role. Bruce Boudreau was asked as well about Kuzmenko. Kuzmenko, of course, on a one-year contract. He's a UFA next summer if he doesn't decide to re-sign in Vancouver. And he brings the expectations down to what I think makes some more sense. So there's always a lot of hype for guys coming in from the KHL. And they can't always live up to that hype. And he mentioned the pace of the game. I always mention that it is the North American ice surface, which can be tricky for guys coming over. But he talked about how the pace in the KHL isn't quite at the NHL level of pace. And then there's the amount of hitting as well. And not all players are able to adjust easily to the North American National Hockey League game. So he's really, and I think that's great. I think for a coach to come out and say, look, this guy's coming in and there's a lot of people expecting a lot from him. Let's temper expectations. I think that's a good idea because then it takes some of that pressure off Kuzmenko, right? The Oilers announcing the Slater Koekkoek not with the team for training camp. He is out dealing with his own mental issues, and this is the thing, mental well-being. I just think back to 20 years ago. If a player had said, for my own mental well-being, I'm skipping training camp, that would have been everywhere. Like, what is wrong with this? He makes millions as a hockey player. Why? And I'm glad to see that now it's not treated like it's this horrible idea and it's a sign of laziness or weakness. So hopefully Koekkoek's able to get everything straightened out and he's back to play sooner rather than later. He played 19 games for the Oilers last season. So we'll see if/when he comes back and joins the team, what his role is going to be. Interesting as well, Ben Bishop, who was supposed to be working with the Stars in an operational matter, he's not playing this year, but they traded his contract to Buffalo. So the National Hockey League has stepped in and said, no, you can't be under contract with the Sabres and working for the Stars. Now, people have pointed out that the NHL has employed themselves players who are still under contract to play for a team. I can understand, though, where the NHL's coming from with why they're not allowing Bishop to have any kind of an operational presence within the Dallas organization. It is a conflict of interest. If you're working for the National Hockey League, but you're getting paid by, I don't know, say the Flyers, it's not as much of a. I mean, there could potentially be situations where it's conflict of interest, but this would directly be an issue where one team's paying his paycheck and another team's actually putting him to work. In all likelihood, once his contract expires at the end of this coming season, Bishop ends up working with Dallas. Who knows? Maybe he ends up being a goaltending coach at some point, right? Bishop was sadly, dealing with injuries, and that's what shortened his career. I think he could be very good as a coach. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I understand why the NHL said no to that. Of course, for Seattle, it's media day, so it's all the headshots, everybody taking their pictures. Brandon Tanev's photo, of course, he just looks surprised. The thing is that it felt like the first year, I don't know how intentional. It didn't look intentional the first year. Now it sort of does, so I don't feel like it has the same effect. But hey, it's fun. I have nothing against something fun, especially from the National Hockey League, which is not always fun to cover or watch and deal with. So, hey, Tanev likes it. The fans like it. I think it's a good thing. So the really big thing, of course, with Brandon Tanev is if he's healthy and if he's able to contribute for Seattle the way that he was last year before he got hurt, that's going to help Seattle tremendously. It was a huge blow to the Kraken when Tanev was out because, again, with an expansion team, you don't have the depth to absorb those kinds of losses. Chicago, during their media scrum today, Luke Richardson, new coach, of course, not looking to tank, wants to win. And yeah, that's the way it should be for a coach, right? And then Kyle Davidson, the general manager, jumped in and said, well, I want to win too. I want the team to win too. And basically Richardson said he wants this downbeat, this rebuild to take as little time as possible. Judging by their offseason moves, I don't know that it can be a short rebuild. I mean, I guess it's possible, but I don't know that it can be. Also, when asked, Kyle Davidson saying there have been no trade talks yet involving Toews or Kane. Probably for the best. I mean, both of them with a $10.5 million cap hit would be very, very difficult to make a trade like that happen. But once they're available, teams will be inquiring about Kane especially, but teams will be looking for Toews as well. You're going to need to figure out a way to get around the cap a little bit, whether it's sending bad contracts to Chicago or whatever it is. But Toews would be useful at this point as a leader, right? As a player who on the ice is one of the better captains in the league. Also, good center, good face-off guy. If he can get some of his offense back, that'd be great too, right? He was playing after an entire year off this past season, so a little bit of a pass for him there. And of course, Kane, one of the best wingers in the National Hockey League, so they really shouldn't have a problem finding a trade partner there. We'll see what happens. But again, the cap's going to complicate things. Also, the NHL is now allowing the media back into the locker rooms this year. Yep, makes sense. Back in the locker room they go, so we'll start seeing the arguments and all the fun stuff in the locker room immediately after a game, and we'll see how long it takes before there's an argument between a reporter and a player. And let me know which player you think is going to have that first argument with the reporter. Now, I might be willing to say Kessel, but in Vegas, I don't think that'll happen. So we'll see. We'll see which player ends up having an argument with a reporter first. Let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.